Alrighty, so it's getting close to winter. It's October right now, and I thought this would be the perfect time to go over some of the systems I use for ice climbing. So today we're going to begin with what I use for my harness setup for ice climbing. So the first item that we have is this, and if you can't tell by what's in the bag, it is the new Petzl Aquila harness. I got this harness, I was really curious about it. I almost bought the one previously. I was kind of looking at it as, you know, just a more comfortable harness. I initially got it for the leg loops, because generally with your ice climbing, you might have more layers in your legs, and I found with fixed leg loops sometimes that it would get a little tight. So I wanted to have the adjustable leg loops just to accommodate extra layers. But a new feature for this one is that there are a ton of gear loops. My Sitta, which I'll go over in a bit, only has, I think it's got like 5 gear loops. Now this one has, it's got 6 total if you include the tagline, which, it's got 2 massive gear loops on the side for your rigid gear loops, and you have 2 big non-rigid gear loops, but then you got another one in the back. And this is kind of like important for just racking all your stuff when you're ice climbing, because generally when you're ice climbing you just have a lot more, and you're not just packing just drawers, you're packing sometimes extra jackets and all of that sort of things. So I really went for this because it was a new harness, a new system. This is Petzl's kind of new design for harnesses. Previously they were kind of doing this like fuse frame technology where they had, well, they're still using it, but they would normally have like strands of like Dyneema go through, or just lots of foam. But from what I can tell, and I'll put a video in the corner either here or there, that kind of goes over a lot of the main specs. But from what I gathered, the new harness construction is a lot thinner than the previous one. So it's not like, they quoted it as like, it's not as padded, but it's still comfy. And the way that they did the new one, which I think you can kind of see here, is that it is, they basically have nylon webbing go through as its like main structure, and then foam in between. So it's a really cool system, really cool new take on the Petzl Aquila. I'm pretty excited to climb in it this year. So yeah, like I said before, the adjustable leg loops are pretty big for this, just so it can accommodate. Like right now I don't have much underneath, it's just regular pants and base layer underneath, or underwear. So for like sport climbing needs, they get pretty tight, but if I need it for like ice climbing, let's say I have like 3 layers underneath, it just gets to a point where it's really wide that I can accommodate everything. Not that you really need to. And then it just sits up right up here. A little tight right now, but yeah, so this is the Petzl Aquila. This is how it fits. It'd be a little bit janky with this, because this is probably like this is probably the second time I've put on this harness, but this is how it kind of fits all around. Got all of the gear loops in the back, which is really helpful. It's got like a sort of Dyneema for your tie-in points, so they're going to last a long time. That's really handy, so it'll get good wear on it. And yeah, like I said, I'm excited to climb in it. I'm a size medium in this harness, and I normally wear a 32 waist for my pants, so that's kind of a reference. And Petzl harnesses are kind of a little bit tighter. I've had on some like other harnesses by like Edelrid and Black Diamond, and I think the two that kind of compare to this Aquila is probably the Black Diamond Technician, and I think it's called the Edelrid Sendaro. I'll put that somewhere on the screen. And those are the kind of competitions, but I do know that like Petzl harnesses fit a little bit tighter. Generally, like when I do like a medium size Black Diamond harness, I have the 2 points overlap a lot, whereas with Petzl I always have like a tiny little gap, but that could just be due to a more European style fit. But just always know that sometimes the Petzl harnesses fit a little bit tighter. And yeah, so that is the Petzl Aquila harness, new for 2022. Alrighty, so for the next item I'd like to bring out for my harness setup for ice climbing is the Petzl Caritool. So the Caritool is pretty essential for racking all your ice climbing gear. It's more necessary for your ice screws. Generally you'll have these on your harness and you can have up to 4 of them. I rock 2. I just found that getting the Caritool EVO from Petzl, they're just a little bit wider, and that just extra width makes it so you can put more screws on there, and you have more storage and more space. I used the old Caritool last year. The old Caritool, I actually have the Caritool and the Caritool EVO. I opted for using the EVO more just because it was bigger. Here's a comparison between this is the old Caritool EVO and then this is the new Caritool EVO. And they're relatively the same size. I'm pretty sure this one can hold a little bit more because it doesn't have this like really significant curve. But the biggest difference between these new Caritool EVOs is that its attachment point. So the old Caritool EVO went with a wire, and so this would go on your harness and go across. And the wire kind of slides like up and down. You know, that can kind of get annoying when your Caritool like just kind of goes up and down, sometimes sideways. But the other thing that I found with the old Caritool EVO is that how it gets in and how it stays, if I can do it right now, there's a little clamp that goes over like that. I found that sometimes when I'd be ice climbing that this would easily just flick open like on a piece of clothing. So this new Caritool system, what you do is you have your harness right here and you go over with your harness. Actually, you loosen this up. Again, I'm just figuring this out because I just got these not too long ago and I haven't had to use them for ice climbing, so I'm still figuring them out. So if you'd have your harness right here, you go through, open this up, and then your harness is right here. You can choose how wide you need it to be, and then you tighten that down, and then it's secure. And the thing that I like about this design is that it shouldn't matter as long as this is always in here. The Caritool won't come off, whereas the old Caritool, if this thing opens, it opens like that, it can easily just go up, and then your Caritool with all your screws can just fall off the climb. So I do like the Caritool EVO for that. The new one, again, brand new Caritool EVO. I think it's a good design. Probably one of the better designs on the market. Had some experience with the Black Diamond ice clippers, and they're all right. They're just kind of small, like the regular Caritools, but I think these are going to be a great addition to my harness setup this year. So the next item I have here is the harness I used last year for ice climbing, and that is the Petzl Sitta harness. And I kind of got this harness as a weird way to have like a kind of flex for ice climbing. I don't know, it was one of the harnesses that I've seen like the top end Petzl athletes get. Like Conrad Anker uses a Petzl Sitta, so I was like, well, if Conrad Anker is using it, I should use it. Overall, it's actually really good. It was a harness that was kind of built to be lightweight but robust. You kind of see here that there's these cords of Dyneema that are going through that acts as a support, so there's no like traditional foam padding in here. So it's not like, you wouldn't think that because there's no foam that it wouldn't be like comfortable to hang on. And I've done a lot of things in this and it's pretty comfortable. I mean, the way they got it to where this kind of distributes the weight, it really does a good job of distributing the weight evenly. So it was really nice. They are fixed leg loops. At first, because I used to climb in the Edelrid Sendaro harness, and I just didn't like how the leg loops were. I always found that they rode up and down on my leg. And so when I finally got to this, I was like, yes, like fixed leg loops are perfect. And I mean, they still are. I really like them a lot. Just the only thing I don't like is that if I have an extra thick layer on my legs that day for ice climbing, they just get a little tight. Not like to the point of like cutting off circulation, but they're just a little bit tighter than I would like. So the Petzl Sitta has a really big solid gear loop. it's kind of cool because like they have a little adjustment point. I thought this would kind of get in the way, and it kind of does if you like were to put a carry tool right here. Sometimes that takes up a lot of the place, and you know, this little divider is, you know, it's nice. I think it's nice for like racking your gear for like if you want to put quick draws on one side, and then let's say for multi-pitch climbing, maybe cams on the other. I think that's a good point. I didn't really have a huge use to it. The only thing I would make a note on these is that these gear loops, they're not as durable as you would think. This is actually my second Sitta. The first Sitta that I had, the gear loop actually broke, which that was kind of sad. I think it just broke by just putting it in my bag, which is it's kind of a thing to be kind of worried about because this is Petzl's like highest end harness, so you'd hope that it should last and you wouldn't have to, you know, really have to worry about it breaking if you just stuff it in your pack. But Petzl does have a 3-year guarantee on all their products, and when I told Petzl about it, they sent me this one. So this is a replacement one, but just know that the gear loops, they're not as burly as you think. They're pretty hollow. They kind of, at first I was like, I saw that they were hollow, and they just kind of remind me like of like a plastic tube or like a little plastic straw that you get when you'd have like a sucker, something like that. I was just kind of crazy, but they probably had to make it that lightweight so the harness stays lightweight. So, you know, you have your pros and cons. The other thing about this, talking about the gear loop again, is that the secondary gear loop, that the one that's non-rigid, it's kind of small, is how I would say. I think this harness like really excels really well with sport climbing and multi-pitch climbing, but I think, and it's kind of why I'm going to the new Aquila for ice climbing now, is that there's just not enough space on the Sitta. I found that when going to highlight and climbing there, I was kind of maxing out on my space, which was kind of crazy because I thought I had enough space, but I really didn't have all the space I needed. So the smaller rear gear loops is kind of a pain because you fit a couple things on there, like 5-6 carabiners on there, and it's pretty full already. The other fact is that they're just kind of small. They're kind of small, and they're kind of an awkward place. Like I think when you have them, I'll show you when I have the harness on. They're just kind of awkward to get to. Not a huge fan, but they're not bad. And Petzl does the non-rigid gear loops in the back for a reason. They were thinking that, and it's true that when you had this on, they figured that if these were non-rigid in the back, that you would be able to wear a backpack and you wouldn't have any interruptions in the back. Like the backpack shouldn't hang up on these. It's the same thing with the Aquila. It's what they did. It's what Petzl's been doing with their harnesses, and I do think it's a good idea. When I was like hiking to climb the climb with my backpack on, it was something that I was definitely aware of, and I was like, that's a pretty good design. Alrighty, so like I said before, this is fixed gear loops, or fixed leg loops. And yeah, I do like them for overall comfort. I think fixed leg loops are probably the most comfortable, but as you can kind of see here, like compared to the Aquila that I was just wearing, like they're stretched. This is all elastic, so it will stretch to accommodate, but it's not as much as the Aquila. So definitely like a thicker base layer underneath and you're almost out of space. Definitely no insulated pants. Walking comfort in this is pretty good. Belaying comfort's pretty good. I've belayed a lot in this, and it's a pretty comfortable harness to belay in. Again, I'm a size medium in this. Again, it's kind of like pretty close, like I said before. Like there's a little space. They kind of fit a little tighter. So I definitely know if I was in a size larger, it would definitely overlap, but I think it was just too much more of a range for me. So size medium works perfectly. This is how it kind of looks. Again, then yeah, here's the rear gear loops. They're kind of weird, just the fact that they're kind of behind. They're not rigid, but I think if they were just like that farther down, which I think the Aquila are, it's just a little bit easier to manage because it's like right here, it's just not that great. And they do have a tagline. So they have a total of 5 gear loops, but really only 4 usable ones. And the big side gear loops are pretty good. Like I said, the adjuster. But overall, it's a great harness. It should be because it is Petzl's most expensive harness. But I can definitely see why a lot of the athletes use it. It's comfortable. Like I said, I think it's got a definitely great place for high-end sport climbing and mountaineering and things like that. But ice climbing, I can definitely see having something that would be a little bit more accommodating for base layers and more gear storage. So that's definitely ultimately why I've gone to the Aquila. But while we're still here, if you'd notice that I have this thing on my harness, this is the Petzl Connect. Now, I got the Connect because it was probably one of the safest things for me to do, so I'd be able to secure myself to anchors. This is something that it really doesn't matter if you're a new climber or an expert climber, you should definitely have a personal anchor system. They're so easy. They're so convenient too. I mean, the thing is that I can clip into a belay station or an anchor and I can go out so I can hang lower, or if I need to, I can pull myself in to the anchor. It's nice, and it just makes it so there's not a lot of error when you have these things that you're doing at an anchor or belay station. It's a really safe thing to get. It's something that I'd recommend everyone getting. They're the new thing. This is Petzl's version. There's a bunch of different versions. I know Metolius makes one, and I think Black Diamond makes one now. But this is the one I like, just because it's probably one of the simplest, and it's smooth to adjust. And all you have to do is just put a carabiner, preferably a locking carabiner. I have the Petzl, I think it's the SMD, SMD. Yeah, it's the Petzl SMD. And I've seen people get auto lockers on this. I just did a basic screw lock. The one thing I will say with this carabiner that I have on this is sometimes if you over tighten Petzl carabiners too much and then you weight it this way, the screw lock gets pretty dang stuck and you are almost stuck on the anchor. Sometimes you have to literally beat the screw gate with something hard just to get it to unscrew, so that's kind of a pain. So auto lockers in that instance are really good, but I just did a basic screw lock so I can be secure. But yeah, the Petzl Connect is something that I would recommend everyone getting. It's a basic item and it can keep things a lot safer. Alrighty, so that has been my ice climbing harness setup. I will cut the video into chapters, as you can probably see if you're watching. And yeah, if you have any questions about my setup or having questions for your own setup, feel free to leave a comment. I'll try to respond to it as soon as I can. And look down the road for certain items like the Petzl Aquila and the Petzl Caritool EVO, because they're brand new and I haven't used them yet. So this ice climbing season, I'll definitely gather my opinions on them. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next review.